Hello and welcome to Mostly Minnesota Music Podcast Edition. I'm Ann Tracy and I'm here with my co-host,
Heather Baker.
Yeah, and we are here with the Federales. Yay!
Hello.
Thank you, Ben and James. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Now you are in different locations today. James, where are you sitting?
I'm sitting on 43rd and Grand in South Minneapolis, in case anybody wants to stop by, say hi.
Stop by. All right. And is there beer in the fridge?
There is, actually. I got one right here,
Okay.
too.
There we go, 43rd and Grand. Now we know that. That's perfect. And Ben?
I am in Flatbush, Brooklyn right now.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. We don't care if you've got beer in the fridge because that's way too far for any of us.
Yeah, there's not. I know there's vermouth. There's no beer though.
That's an odd one to have by your side.
I can make you a Negroni or something, but I can't give you a beer.
Oh, well, okay. I'll remember that. Sometimes I'm in New York. I'll keep that on. So. Thank you so much for joining us because you guys are having an exciting week.
Yeah. A much delayed, exciting week. Our album is coming out, our new album, Honky Tonks and Hangovers, which we actually talked about with y'all.
Yep.
Like a year ago, almost to the day, I think.
Oh, criminy, really?
It was mid-July, if I recall.
We came up with the album idea, right?
Yes.
The album cover.
Yeah.
Yeah, or no, we were going to do it on Black Vinyl.
Black Velvet. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
And I think I asked for T-shirts to be made, so when I was looking at your merch, I was sad to see that it's not listed yet. So I'm pushing you for that.
There's a backup on Black Velvet. So.
Ah, gotcha. Gotcha.
The fabric, not the whiskey.
Yeah.
We will have, we're working on this right now. We will have merch. It also delayed though. So we'll have some new things available soon, hopefully.
So you've got the release is the 17th.
Yep. Friday it'll be out online for streaming, buy it all those digital ways. And we'll also have vinyl and CDs that we can ship out to everybody.
Nice. And people can pre-order now.
They can pre-order right now on Bandcamp. Yep.
Nope. And you've got 2 songs that you can stream right now.
Yep. And those are all out on Spotify and all those other places.
Right.
As well.
I had to laugh because I was listening to one. My youngest kid used to come and see music with me all the time, and there was a monthly show, Real Phonic Radio.
Oh yeah.
Yes, and Eric Hoskin was announcing some new album, and he started to play new music. Smarty Pants, 10-year-old at the time. That's not new. I've heard it a load of times. And I felt like my kid listening to it. I'm like, oh, I love this song. You know. So I do remember talking about it back in the day. It's exciting. And you've got an event Thursday?
Yeah, on our Facebook page, and I think on Instagram and Twitter and some of those places. We're going to stream the audio of the whole album. If anybody wants to come hang out in the comments and ask some questions, we'll probably tell some stories about recording the album and some of that kind of thing. If anybody wants to formulate some questions.
I love that idea. How did you come up with it? I mean,
Well, we'd sort of talked about doing the one of the like Zoom happy hour streams, or some sort of assembled something like that, but everybody's doing that, so it's a chance to do something that's a little bit easier and maybe a little bit different, hopefully.
What I like about it is it's really a chance for people to interact more with you.
Yeah, they can interact without having to be on video, and we don't have to be on video, and we're also, Ben's in New York, we're in around the Twin Cities and stuff like that. So it just kind of felt like we wouldn't really get together anything. Well, it's also summer too. I think people don't want to be, sitting inside glued to their computer watching, a band play. They want to be outside watching a band play. So yeah, I think it's kind of a cool opportunity to interact with us in a different way. So.
I love that. I'm a big Twitter user, and I always say Twitter is a gift to the shy. I will tweet people that I would never talk to.
Oh, really?
Like kind of yourselves almost included, right? Like, oh, I don't want to be bugging them. I don't want to be bugging them, but I'll tweet anyone. When I'm at conferences or even some of the outdoor shows, like, oh, like that. So I think it gives people who wouldn't normally come up to talk to you after the show an opportunity to do it.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a very good point. Yeah, anybody can ask any question. I think every band member is going to be online, so it's kind of like ask me anything kind of style session.
Yeah, it's that like asynchronous. It doesn't have to be immediate. We have a little bit of time to think about stuff and prepare ahead of time.
Yeah.
Now, the big question: will you be drinking while you do it? Will this be like a Jeremy Messersmith watching the awards kind of a thing, or are you?
I plan to.
Yeah, I plan to too. Maybe not to the level that he usually does. I'm not sure. I know sometimes when he would do those, he would just like by the end of the 3.5 hour show, he'd be
little,
trouble. Yeah. Good for him.
Fall asleep on a key.
Yeah.
Q.
Q.
So how has it been? When is the last time you folks have been in a room together and played together?
Your last gig in Pine Island?
Yeah, end of February, I think. I can't remember if it was end of February or beginning of March, but yeah, that last weekend, last weekend in February, I was back for a week or so.
And how do you stay connected too? Have you been working on the album exclusively? Have you been working on new material? Presumably you recorded the album before?
Yeah, this album took forever. Like, I think we recorded the first session for it in January of 2017. I was looking back at some of the archives.
Wow.
And then we sort of scrapped, I think we got maybe like 8 songs done in the spring of 2017. And then we scrapped all that and started over again in November of 2017. So it's been a while. Yeah.
Waste some time and money just to, try something new.
It
was a good kind of a situation where we had a change in the band where one of our friends became our drummer, full-time drummer, and we started going into the studio to track all the other songs, like the rest of the songs that were going to be on the album, and then we realized it sounded quite a bit different and also better. So a lot of that had to do more with us learning how to play in the studio, and since we were going all analog with everything. Like every time you go in there and you try to mix analog and perform the mix or just kind of get things set in a certain way, you learn something new every time and you get better and better and better at it. So we just found that the new sessions sounded so much better than the old ones just based on that alone. So they didn't really stand up, the old ones didn't. So we just said, oh, let's just scrap it and do all the old ones over again.
Nice. Now for someone who doesn't spend any time in a studio, what is the difference really doing an analog versus doing digital or doing a live?
I think, well, my favorite part about it, and I think what we all learned, was that it's like the limitation of your sort of, when you go in there and you're prepared that what you play has to be like what is the finished product almost. I mean, you can go back and do some tweaking depending on how much overdubbing and re-editing you want to do, but it's way harder because you're doing it on tape, and so you're limited. Like you know that you have to be on every time you're playing, and you can't go back and change things around as much. So you have to like make those decisions right away, and it's like a very freeing limitation because that part of it is sort of like taken away. The ability to go back and mess around with stuff is taken away. So you have to like be in the moment at all times.
Mm-hmm.
I like the idea that frees you up because it's a commitment to make.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. But those limitations, I feel like then it kind of takes away a whole subset of decisions that you never have to make.
Yep.
And so you're stuck with what you've gone with, and that's the frame of reference that you have, frame of mind you have to have, and then you can kind of keep moving forward. So I always kind of like to put on restrictions in any sort of creative kind of endeavor, just to kind of help you keep moving forward. I find that freeing, very much so. Yeah.
Well, you asked before, we sort of got off on a tangent, but we haven't really been working on any album related stuff since it kept getting delayed. We've actually been doing a lot of remote recording. Like I think every musician that has any like ability to record at home has been doing that kind of stuff, like swapping things back and forth. But James and I and a few of the other members of the band and whoever's sort of like set up and ready to go, we've been doing some sort of like experimental recording. What made me think of this is James has been like really good about setting up limitations and like, nope, this is how we have to do it. Like keep us on track of like, we have like one person records and you have to like randomize the list of whoever is left over, and then whoever's next, like in that random list, they have to go and they just have to do it. Like whatever, it doesn't, no fooling around. Like
situations where, especially remote collaborations can fall apart so fast that, if you have these really obvious set of limitations and kind of structures around how to, not really necessarily what you create, but how to, go about it, then it makes it so much, clearer for everybody to kind of do what they have to do, or, give them space to just be creative without worrying about, have this file here and that file there and this file here and that file there and all that stuff. So, yeah.
And are you finding that you're getting a different sound? What have there been any surprises that you're doing it in a different way?
I've been really pleasantly surprised actually with the tunes that we've created in these remote collaborations. I think they have more of a unique sound than some other, it's not somebody bringing a song like a song that they've created already. It's really a collaborative composition kind of vibe, which is really cool. I think it has a really unique sound.
It's pretty free form too. It's like a lot of like, in particular, because I've been at home a lot and I've always wanted to learn more about just recording at home and sort of doing all that tracking myself. So I've spent a lot of time reading up on that and like doing a lot of studying of like, here's how these different recording techniques work. And I've actually been playing a bunch of like keyboards and stuff, which I've never ever done. I've always considered it a thing that I'm very bad at and not good at figuring it out. But like that I think that was one of the first things that I remember when we started this was like, I think James and our drummer had sent over their tracks and I was next. And I was like about to do some guitar or something because it was easy. And I was like, wait, no, what if I just did like Mellotron and like recorded Mellotron like one night, and I spent like 8 hours on it till like 3 a.m, like playing over and over and like, oh, that's what that like C chord is. Oh, cool. Like I can do that. And then like I'd have to go back and redo the whole thing. And like,
that's kind of one of the beauties of this, kind of being stuck in this, like we had this limitation of not even really being able to go out and play music and play shows. And also, with this particular project, you have all this time to do all these takes, which is something you don't have in the studio, especially when you go to the studio and we're doing it analog. It's like you're kind of going through as many takes as you can to get a good take, and then that's it. Where in this situation, I can spend, like Ben said, spend 8 hours on a Mellotron part. When I would go back and read about how the Beatles recorded and stuff, that was always my some of my favorite. Like, oh, that would be so awesome if I could spend 12 hours in the studio late at night just perfecting a little part or something like that. But there's no way to do that really, and actually like have any money left over. So
have you been doing anything else creatively with all the extra time, or anything else interesting that's new?
Not really. That's the most I've been thinking about, just because there is like all this time at home. Like I said, it's been something I've always wanted to do. So there's a good reason to actually finally do it, because I have nothing else to do.
Yeah. Allow yourself. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you not music? Are you a little more shut down in New York than we are?
I think it's actually kind of switched now.
Okay.
I think the last couple of days we had our first day with zero new cases, I believe.
Yay!
So yeah, and then we have handed off the danger to the rest of the country now. Sounds like.
Hopefully we'll all be at 0 at some point. We don't need to go too far into that. I thought about starting today by saying, do you guys ever have one of those years where there's a worldwide pandemic and then some civil unrest and then it's hot as Hades and then you do something awesome like release an album, and spend time. And it'll be so interesting for you to hear the difference between having done one analog and doing one an entirely different way.
Yeah, I think that's what we're going to try to do next. Like once this is, I'm kind of like, maybe not looking forward, but like ready to like have this one done finally, because I mean, I was excited for it to come out, but now that it's been delayed, sort of, out of our control so much, it'd be nice to like get onto another chapter and start working on some new songs.
That's a tough one. It's a tough one when you're like, I'm ready. I should never say this. It's a little bit like being 8.5 months pregnant. I was real excited for the first 7 months. Let's just do this. Let's get this done. And hopefully it will be as fruitful. I mean, I love the music that's on, as I said, I know this. Smarty Pants.
Yeah, a lot of the songs we've been playing live now for many years.
Mm-hmm.
So,
which is fun. That's awesome for your fans.
Yeah, it's true. And there's some songs I don't think we've ever played live.
Yep.
So it's a nice mix.
Do you have a favorite song on the?
I think my two favorites are the ones that James wrote for this album. He wrote this one that we play live fairly frequently now. I don't think we played it live maybe until we recorded it, but James wrote an instrumental that's kind of like a surfy psychedelic vibe. It's the second to last song on the album on the B-side, called The Ballad of Lsd, and it's just like really cool interweaving parts that we all came up with, and it's just super fun to play. And I remember it like the take that we used, I remember being like just amazed at how great it turned out. And we worked on that one, I think, more than any other song on the album.
Killer guitar solo by Ben too.
Yeah, like I don't play guitar solos anymore, so that was a weird thing to.
So that was one of them. You had another favorite?
Yeah, and then like James actually sings one on this album. And again, like this was the other fun thing about recording, just in the mode that we did a ton of switching up, kind of like inspired by how people like the band would like swap instruments in the studio and that sort of thing. Like we did a few, there's a few songs that like have a more down low vibe on this album, and so James played piano, or James played acoustic guitar on this one, and we maybe only have like percussion, no full-on drums, that sort of thing, and just like a nice chill vibe. And so this is one that James wrote that he sings that's super cool, and it's got, again, kind of like a cool spacey late 60s psychedelic vibe to it.
Mm-hmm. James, do you have a favorite?
Yeah, I think it's probably North Dakota Truck Driving Man. I think it's a song we've been playing live for a long time, but I just think it's got a really cool, it's a really great song. It's got a really great backstory, about a really great character. So Ben can probably elaborate on that a lot more than I can, but I always thought it was, it's one of my favorite songs to play live, and it's also one of my favorite from the album. And then I would say the second one is probably, is Breaker Heart the one that's the Great Steel solo at the end of the album?
Yeah, that Joe sent in. Do we have him send that in later, I think, maybe? Yeah.
I think so. Yeah. It's like a tune that, honestly, I was voting to not have on the album. But then Joe sent in this great pedal steel solo. Our pedal steel player, Joe Cimarelli, he lives in North Dakota now. He's a pilot. And he sent in this just killer steel solo, and it just like made the whole track for me. So yeah, it's probably tied with Dead Gulch Dan though, because the horn section was so fun to work with.
That horn section is has a very New Orleans vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We got to credit Carl, our other singer and banjo player, for that one. I'm trying to remember exactly how we came up with the idea to throw that in there, but I think it was after we had a long band meeting at James' house where we were sort of like listening to every take of all the songs and like saying like, yep, this one should go on there. Like, let's keep this song. Let's use this take. And then I think afterwards, Carl emailed and said something like, Dead Gulch Dan would be like really cool with like a New Orleans-y horn section on it. And we were all like, oh yeah. So we recorded that. So like one of the few overdubs that we did was that, the horn section.
And we picked the wrong take.
Yeah, we picked a really great take, and then when we went to record the horn section, we used the wrong one. And Mark, our drummer, showed up And we're like, oh man, it sounded so cool. You got to hear this. Like we played it for him, and he's like right away, he's like, the wrong take. We were like, ah.
Get to the horn section, however much money, and they're like already out the door.
Yep.
We just blew it, what, $300 or something like that. I can't remember what the number was, but it was just like, wow, that was a big mistake. But it actually happened to be a great accident because the take we used was slower, a little bit slower and had a little bit more of a swampy vibe. So it worked way better with the horn. So.
Yep. I was listening to the other take, like the one that we originally picked. And it is pretty cool, but yeah, the horns definitely work better with the slower one.
10 years from now, you can put that on your deep track.
Yeah. All the B-sides.
The other version.
Well, we did have to, we made Mark re-overdub the cowbell solo that he played in the other take. So.
Yeah, it's this great cowbell solo.
That feels like you need a video for that.
I have a picture actually of the cowbell in the studio when he overdubbed it that I'm going to put in this listening party video on Thursday.
Nice.
So.
Is that when we described he was trying to pick out a cowbell, which cowbell to use?
Yeah.
And the tone was too cowy. Like a real cowbell.
Too much like a real cowbell.
Oh, that's funny. No, I have to ask a little bit about the backstory for the North Dakota truck driving man. Did I get that one? Yeah.
So I'll also say this was a super fun one to record before I go into the whole story. This was one of the ones that we spliced 2 takes together. I think this is the first one where we actually, and our producer and engineer, Zach Hollander from the Pearl in Northeast, I think this was kind of an adventure for him too, because he has a tape machine, which I think he got from Pachyderm Studios.
Wow.
In his studio, which if I recall correctly, I think he said that's the tape machine that they used to record In Utero when Nirvana was recording there. So he did a bunch of recording with that, but I think he doesn't get to record like full-on analog stuff a lot. So we had one intro for the song that we liked, and then one full take that we liked. So we actually did the like razor blade, splice them together, like tape it up and spin it through. I have video of this too, because he hadn't done it for a while. We'd never done it. We were amazed.
My hands are sweating.
Yeah, and it was way like less pressure than I would have imagined, because that we were recording however 30 inches per second or whatever it was, like a second of tape was just like
one beat of the music was like 4 feet long.
Yeah, so you didn't have to be accurate at all. Like.
So it's like you could slow it down and just find exactly where the bass can hit, and then that's where the knife goes, and then the other one, and then tape it together, and yeah, it's pretty fascinating.
So the first time I have the video that I have is the first time that we like spliced it and then like played it, and it was just like perfect. Like you can see the splice go by, and we're all just like, "Oh my god, it worked perfectly." I think like we did that on a couple other ones, and it did not work quite so well the first time around, but.
This was like a first, nailed it on the first take kind of thing.
Yep. So the story behind that song is, and actually I won't be able to pull it up, but I can send it. So I worked at our radio show Live From Here, formerly Prairie Home Companion, and the truck driver for the show back, I think he started, I don't remember all the dates offhand. In like the late 70s, he played on the Prairie Home softball team. And he was a writer. His name is Russ Ringsack. And he did a bunch of research for the show, wrote for the show. He also drove the truck for the show that hauled around like all the equipment and all that kind of stuff. He's just a like super interesting guy. He wrote a couple books. He wrote a Minnesota tourism book, wrote an autobiography called Semi-True. Great poem. And so as I started working for the show, like he would host these post-show as we were out on the road. He would go out, like drop the truck off, and he would go to like whatever close liquor store he could walk to and get a bottle of whiskey. And then like after the show on Saturdays, the musicians and like other people from the crew, like once everybody was all done working and loading out and everything, would go hang out in Russ's room and play bluegrass tunes and drink whiskey and tell bad jokes and stuff like that. And it was just a super fun time. Like I learned a ton about music and the history of the show, and just like all kinds of really great stories about Nashville and Chet Atkins and that sort of thing. And he was a really great guy. And he but he retired from the show in 2016, and his last show, he and well, maybe I won't tell that part of the story, but the last show was at the Ryman in Nashville, and so his sort of like going away present was he played 6 days on the road on the show, and Brad Paisley played lead guitar on it. Super, good send off. So this was like, he's from North Dakota originally, Grafton, North Dakota, and so I remember, can't remember exactly when I started writing this song, but I remember just like Russ would be like a fascinating character for a song, and sort of like spent years and years like just taking all the stories that he told me and sort of like refining them down into a song. I remember like I had never had the chorus quite right, and I was walking around San Francisco in like 2013, and that's when like walking from Fisherman's Wharf down back to my hotel, and that's when I was like, chorus, I know what the chorus is going to be. And that's the one that made it into the song with a little bit more tweaking, but yeah. So that, like most of that story is all true in some fashion. He's a good joke teller and a super interesting, smart guy.
Nice.
Yeah. And his family, all really awesome, really great, creative, smart people as well. And they come to our shows occasionally, and they all, when that one starts, they're all down front, like ready to sing along. So.
Super sweet.
That's what a fantastic position for you to be in.
Yeah.
To kind of to hear all those stories. You know, you could either write several albums worth or a book yourself, I'm sure, based on.
Yeah. Hopefully, it was good for like a lot of like song ideas and notebook filling, like, you know, lyrics and stuff like that.
Nice. So once the album is out, what have you got? You mean you're not gonna? Do you have some online plans? I know that Ben, you just played the 10,000 streams.
Yeah.
Did I say that right?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think like I said, we're probably just gonna like maybe try to start working on recording some stuff remotely, at least to even get some like new songs in the works. But probably just rely on good old fashioned social media advertising for a little while, and unless we can, I guess it depends on what happens back in Minnesota. Like if things start opening up for outdoor shows more, make it a little bit easier, I might drive back for a couple weeks or something. We don't know though.
I was going to ask, since you have written that so long ago and playing, have you been writing new stuff too? I hate to jump forward when you're just bringing this out, but just with the time and using or doing your piano work and whatever else with your time.
I don't think my piano work will make it onto another Federales album. James has that handled much better than I do.
5 hours a night, you know, you'll be there in no time.
James is like, I'm going to sing this, and Ben, you're playing piano. There we go.
Well, the problem is that I have to record each hand separately, so it's not going to work to do it if we have to go do it in the studio.
Oh.
I don't have them coordinated quite yet.
You'll have time, don't worry.
Yeah.
You'll figure it out.
Plenty of time now.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've been writing. I wrote a ton in January, new songs and like some new ideas that I'd love to work on soon. Sure, James has been working on some new stuff.
Yeah, my phone's the voice memos app is filled with cool Feds idea, you know,
Yeah.
groovy Feds idea, psychedelic Feds idea, you know, it's a bunch of those kind of things. But I'm definitely planning to go back and actually finish some of those and, you know, start working them into a real form. But yeah, I think I'm also interested to try some of this, taking some of these remote collaboration ideas that we've been doing with, you know, some like, you know, kind of musicians and friends outside the Federales and kind of like try writing some songs collaboratively, you know, as the Federales. So let's just kind of see how that sounds. It'll be very interesting.
Yeah, it is like kind of one of those like silver linings, like that we get to try it a little bit differently than we have in the past.
I was going to say, usually you each separately write and then do it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. for the first two albums, mostly just because I had like a big backlog of songs already ready to go. Carl had a bunch, James had a bunch, so like they're already kind of like created. So we just bring them in and as needed.
Okay.
How many songs did you record for the new album, and how many did you choose?
Good question. What did we cut? 2?
I think we cut 2 or 3. I feel like we recorded 15 maybe, and we ended up with 12, something like that. So we have a few more that are already like semi-ready. I mean, not the ones that, not the recordings, but we have songs that are still ready to go for whatever's next.
But I've heard you both talk a little bit more about sort of the psychedelic and the different move. Are you finding yourself moving to a different, still a foot in Americana, still, or?
Yeah, I definitely think I've always been interested in bands that kind of evolve over time, you know, and don't really just kind of stay locked into the one thing that everybody knows them for, you know. Especially when you look at, you know, the Beatles, you know, like they're the grand example of going from pop to super artistic, you know, music. So I think, you know, a band's involvement is one of the most interesting things. So that was one thing that, like, especially I was really interested in kind of pushing that a little bit this album. I really wanted to sound different than our first one. And it's been years since our first one. So, you know, I think it's important that we evolve. So I think that was definitely a big, you know, motivating factor behind it.
Yeah, and I think this album is maybe closer to like the sound that we envisioned when we started the band, I would say. Like actual tones of the album. Like that was a pretty just like sort of figuring out what that first batch of songs we had would sound like as like a pretty straight up country band. And this is more in line with some of the like New Riders of the Purple Sage, the Byrds, that kind of like,
I think come through more.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, I find that comment interesting. If you said when you started out starting a band, you thought you were going to sound like this, then how did it happen to sound differently, I guess?
I think mostly, I mean, part of it was I'd never really formed this kind of band before. And it was the first time I'd performed any of my songs that I'd written, like, or, you know, been part of a band in that capacity. And that first album was the first time I'd really recorded like a full-on studio album like that. So at least for me personally, it was like a lot of experimentation. It was just like sort of like figuring out the base of everything. Whereas this time, like, we've been together for 8 years now. And we've had, you know, membership changes and things like that. And we've sort of like been refining things as we go. And I think it's just given us enough time to sort of like get back to that original conception of the band in sort of a roundabout way. You know, I think it's still not 100% what we would have envisioned sounding like when we formed.
Yeah, in some ways, you know, it's kind of like a soup or a stew or something. You just put a bunch of ingredients together and you see what comes out. And, you know, now that we've been together and played a lot more, you know, we played live a bunch, you know, where like the first album, I don't know, we probably only had like
maybe 4
or 5 gigs under our belt at that point. So,
oh, wow.
You know, now we're probably, you know, I don't know, 300 or something. So there's a lot more hours together on stage, which definitely, you know, just naturally change the way you sound.
Yep. And I think also just like playing in so many different environments. Like I think we're still unsure if we're doing the Gunflint Tavern run again this year, but the last couple of years we've been playing like the whole Labor Day weekend up at the Gunflint Tavern and Grand Marais. And like I know every time we come back from that, I have like a few more ideas that we toss into the mix of the band sound, just because we're up there for so long playing like however long, you know,
like
3+ hours. Yeah, a night for 3 nights. It's like a lot of time to experiment with stuff.
I remember you talking about that last year.
Yeah.
Mostly I remember wanting to go, but too close to school start.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
If you got kids. See y'all later. Or worse, come on up.
Yeah, this year, school? Who knows? Yeah. Go on up.
We just might. You know, I always think of well, music is really so much a soundtrack of what's happening. So I think we've talked about, you know, the different way of doing things, but how does what's happening in the world, does that affect your music as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even just being home, you know, digesting everything that's happening really has an impact on, you know, how you approach music. And I'm sure a lot of it's subconscious, but you know, a lot of it, you know, conscious too, and just, you know, who knows? I mean, that's kind of like an infinite question of, you know, how things shape the artistic process.
I actually haven't like listened to that much music this whole sort of like quarantine time. I think mostly because I've been working more on actually like I said, like working on paying attention and making music and stuff like that. So it probably, I assume it will come out in some fashion with whatever we work on next. But
yeah,
it feels like people that we've talked to, and just there, a lot of music is being made right now, but not so much released right now. So I think it'll be very interesting 6 months from now, a year from now, when everybody's got a song about their kitchen and then their bedroom and then their bathroom, their garden. No, but you know, it will be really interesting to see what's similar, and are there countrywide, statewide, worldwide moves in different genre. I mean, that working together but apart has got to leave a mark. I mean, you just have to do things differently.
Well, yeah, and I think, like James said, like I think subconsciously there's going to be some sort of like psychic sort of like imprint on everything that may, I would be curious to see, you're right, like if there is going to be some sort of like common thread that is kind of noticeable, whether or not it's in the sound or just like in the obvious subject matter.
It's funny because I think about, I mean, in Minnesota, you know, the only times we're really shut down is a snowstorm. So, you know, like 9 months later, maybe, I mean, but you know, when it's a snowstorm sort of a thing, you're like, oh, okay, and it's much shorter term. We know how long it's going to last, but the never endingness of it, you know, I think it'll be, talk about your limitations, your parameters.
Like, what do I have available within 10 feet of me? Like,
exactly.
For inspiration and music making.
Yeah, there's that cowbell being too much cow is no longer a. That was pre-COVID, baby. You're playing with what you got.
I was gonna say, I didn't know that there was so many varieties of cowbell too. I got to go research that now. I'll be like, this is the one they're talking about. This is the cow one here.
There's probably like a sound bank on YouTube of like different cowbell tones that you can compare.
Yeah, I need to, I never have. I need to look that up for sure.
Luckily, we've all got time.
Yeah.
Maybe you can write a song with the cowbells and the accompanying moos from the cow that it takes.
Ooh, there you go.
That would be an interesting.
Yeah.
That would be good.
On the experimental Federalis album.
Yeah.
Right. I was gonna say, you guys seem to have a theme of beer and honk and cowboys and whatever. Is this a choice, a lifestyle? What? Explain.
We were trying to I'm trying to remember exactly how we came up with the title for the album. I think it was just like, we did a lot of very strange musing in the studio. And at some point we were just like tossing around weird combinations of words. Like I think honky tonks and heartaches, or honky tonks and heartbreak, or something, some other form of that combination we came up with. And then we found out it was taken or something like that. So did some more research. But Carl's wife once, I think he was playing rehearsing a song of mine. I always enjoyed this. He was rehearsing a song of mine at home, and she said, like, man, every song Ben writes, there's some form of alcohol and something terrible happens. It's like, yeah, I guess. It wasn't intentional before that, but now it is.
She's like, I just want to give him a hug and tell him it's going to be okay.
It's all fictional. It's all fictional. Mostly, except when it's not.
Patience about it.
Yeah.
No, it's fun. It's fun to get a glimpse at. It's good to get a glimpse of honky tonks and hangovers. I don't need a lifestyle. It's good to have a glimpse. Good. I like the drinking and the alliteration on all the titles.
It's an everyday
English
thing.
major. I love that.
Yeah.
Good. That's good. It's getting darker here. It's getting darker where you guys are.
Mm-hmm.
I know. Heather, have you got any last questions?
Well, I am really happy to hear that maybe the Gunflint Trail thing might be a possibility.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to have something live to look forward to and out and about in the safe area. I don't know. I know that's a annual favorite, or like Ann said, I remember you guys talking about it last year, but anything to get Ben Miller back home, we should do. I'm assuming James is on board with that too.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
You can add some vermouth to your beer supply.
I was going to say, you can put us to work on the t-shirt making.
Yeah.
I need one to wear.
You have a good black velvet source.
I will pull all the strings I can for you.
Someone's having a garage sale. It's full of it.
Yeah. It's gonna flip over those Elvis paintings. And...
Yeah. We're gonna find it. All right. Will you let people know where they can find you? Remind us of the times and everything for the new album.
Yes, Honky Tonks and Hangovers is out Friday, July 17th, and the listening party is going to be on our Facebook page and a few other places, probably Twitter and Instagram, YouTube, on Thursday, July 16th at 7 p.m. Central. And we are federalesmpls.com, and you can Google the Federales Minneapolis Federales band. You should pop up pretty easily.
You do.
Bandcamp and Spotify and all those fun places.
Yeah. Any parting words, gentlemen?
Hope you dig it.
Yeah. Enjoy.
I know I do.